My name is Valerie Vance, and at 2 in the morning on a freezing night my sister appeared at my door holding my car keys and demanding that I confess to a crime she committed. I looked outside and saw my SUV parked in the driveway with a smashed headlight, a cracked bumper, and a dark stain dragging across the front hood. My sister stood there trembling, smelling heavily of wine and expensive perfume, whispering that a man had stepped into the street out of nowhere, and that she had panicked and driven away without stopping. I want to welcome you to the channel and ask where you are watching this story from today, what the weather is like in your town right now, and if you would take a second to hit that subscribe button before we continue. Before I could process what my sister was saying, our mother pushed past her into my apartment, grabbed my shoulders tightly, and told me that I needed to take the fall and tell the officers I was the one behind the wheel. Moments later our father walked inside with that calm authority he always used whenever he wanted something horrific to sound completely sensible. My sister Chloe was 33 years old and running her entire campaign on integrity, public safety, and accountability, while my mother managed her public image and my father handled crisis control for wealthy political clients. They had always treated Chloe like a valuable family investment, while treating me like an embarrassment simply because I refused to follow their rigid path and chose to keep my private life entirely separate from their constant political games. When Chloe asked to borrow my SUV earlier that evening, she claimed a suspicious vehicle was following her, and I agreed only because she begged for my help. When I demanded to know the truth, Chloe admitted that she hit a pedestrian on a dark road, never called emergency services, and immediately fled the scene because she was worried a public scandal would ruin her upcoming election. My father immediately stepped in and outlined a master plan to claim I was driving the SUV, offering to hire a high-profile attorney to handle my case, as if it were a simple accident caused by icy roads and poor visibility. When I pointed out that a human being was lying injured in the street, my mother told me to lower my voice because the neighbors might hear us. My family did not realize that after receiving threats during a high-profile criminal trial, judicial security had equipped my personal vehicle with encrypted hidden cameras and automatic cloud storage systems that activated upon any sudden impact. My phone vibrated with a discreet notification confirming that the vehicle system had already recorded the entire collision, the interior conversation between Chloe and her passenger, and the exact route she took after abandoning the victim. I kept my phone face down and listened as my parents organized a coordinated sequence of false statements designed to frame me. When I confronted Chloe about whether she had been drinking before taking my car, my father answered for her and insisted she was well under the legal limit, even though he had no way of knowing her actual sobriety level. Chloe stepped closer to me and argued that I owed this sacrifice to the family because I had abandoned them years ago, leaving her to carry the burden of their high expectations while I got to live a quiet life without public scrutiny. Her complete lack of empathy for the victim made me realize that any lingering affection I felt for my sister had completely vanished. My father began assigning specific roles to everyone, ordering my mother to call Chloe campaign manager with a fake story about sudden illness, while instructing my sister to erase every text message related to borrowing my vehicle. A few minutes later, I received a secure notification from Marcus, my court security officer, confirming that an automated collision alert had been triggered and that all vehicle footage was officially preserved on federal servers. I told Marcus to keep the preservation lock initiated, while my family continued writing down their fabricated timeline on a piece of paper. My mother received a phone call from a campaign volunteer who mentioned that a nearby home surveillance camera caught a dark SUV leaving the scene of the accident right after the impact occurred. The news caused Chloe to panic, which prompted my father to insist that I needed to call the police immediately and report the front-end damage myself so my story would look like a voluntary disclosure. During her panic, Chloe accidentally revealed that a man named Austin was in the passenger seat with her, shattering her previous claim that she was completely alone. At 4 in the morning, Austin arrived at my apartment looking terrified, with a fresh red mark across his forehead and trembling hands that betrayed his intense anxiety about being involved in a felony hit-and-run investigation. Austin was a married political operative whose presence in the car explained why Chloe was so desperate to hide the truth. and he quickly recognized that coordinating false statements with me would lead to severe obstruction charges. When my father tried to dismiss my warnings, I finally brought both of my parents into my private study and showed them my official judicial credentials. My father and mother stared in absolute silence at my framed federal commission, the official seal of the court, and the photograph of the chief judge administering my oath of office just 3 weeks prior. Chloe was stunned to discover that the sister she considered a failure was actually a federal judge, but my father quickly tried to manipulate the situation by asking me to use my legal authority and discretion to protect our family. I made it clear that my position did not allow me to cover up a crime, nor would I ever submit a false report to protect anyone. I informed my family that the SUV was equipped with encrypted security recording devices that had already captured the crash, their internal dialogue, and their entire plan to frame me, with all evidence safely stored on court servers. Chloe broke down in tears while my mother pleaded with me not to destroy my sister's future, but I refused to let them turn me into a disposable shield for a candidate who left a man to die. Shortly after sunrise, we learned that the victim, a 6-decade-old worker named Samuel, survived the crash but required emergency surgery for multiple fractures. By 9 in the morning, Chloe retained a criminal defense attorney named Rebecca, who immediately instructed everyone to stop speaking after learning that federal security systems had preserved the vehicle footage. When detectives arrived at my parents' home to conduct interviews, I identified myself, explained my judicial position, provided the security contact details, and gave a complete and truthful statement regarding the events of that night. The detective informed me that Chloe had already called the police earlier that morning to suggest I took the vehicle, proving she was actively trying to frame me until the recorded evidence proved otherwise. Investigators reviewed the clear footage, which revealed Chloe drinking from a flask while checking campaign messages on her phone right before striking Samuel in a marked crosswalk, and driving away despite Austin shouting at her to stop. The audio also captured my father telling Chloe over the hands-free system to bring the vehicle to my apartment, so they could shift the blame onto me because I had no public reputation to protect. Facing undeniable digital evidence, Chloe was forced to give a corrected statement to the police while prosecutors began preparing formal felony charges against her. In the months that followed, Chloe accepted a plea deal that included prison time, probation, heavy restitution, and the complete end of her political career, while my father faced severe legal investigations that destroyed his reputation and career. Samuel slowly recovered from his injuries with the support of his family, and after a thorough internal ethics review confirmed that I had acted with complete integrity, I returned to my seat on the federal bench. I learned that true loyalty never requires you to sacrifice your conscience to protect someone else from the consequences of their own destructive choices. Thank you so much for supporting our channel and watching this story to the very end. If you enjoyed this dramatic story and want to hear more powerful personal experiences, please make sure to click on the next video appearing right here on your end screen.